All right, 11 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. One of the things I think I am probably pretty good at is telling you that I don't know things. Mm-hmm. You ask me something, I say, I really don't know. But I have a radio show. And you know what that enables me to do? It enables me to get the experts. And that's what we're going to do right now. How many of you have had debates with your family, your friends, about climate change, about global warming, that topic in general? How many of you are an expert in the field? All the hands went down. Dr. Hugh Seeley can keep his hand up. He is an expert. He's on the phone. He's a climate change expert, a professor at St. George's University in Grenada, and one of the lead negotiators for the small island nations. He participated in negotiations at the COP22 in Monaco. I hope I said that right.
Morocco.
What'd I say?
Monaco.
Oh, I'm sorry, Morocco. In 2016, and at the COP21 conference in Paris in 2015, which led to the Paris Agreement, which, as you know, the president wanted us to not be a part of anymore. He's talking to us about his area of expertise, climate change, from major cities to small island nations. Dr. Hugh Seeley, what an honor. Thank you for being on our show today.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
And where are you in Grenada? And am I saying it right, Grenada?
That's right. It's Grenada. It's not Grenada. It's Grenada. We're here in the Caribbean, and I'm right now on the campus at St. George's University, and I'm looking out onto the beautiful Caribbean Sea.
Okay. There are two schools of thought with people who agree that the climate is changing. I know there are people who also don't think it's changing, but those who do agree that it's changing, some of them say it's man-made, and some people say it's natural. It's natural. Is it a mixture of the two? What's the real truth there?
The real truth is it's man-made. It's what we call an anthropogenic climate change, and we've looked at all the natural causes of climate variability, like volcanic eruptions, like changes in the Earth's orbit, and the only thing that can explain the temperature anomalies that we're now seeing is the increases in carbon dioxide concentrations that we're seeing in the atmosphere, and and it's absolutely clear that the increases in carbon dioxide concentrations is coming from man-made activities, primarily the combustion of fossil fuels.
Okay. Now, there was a story just last week out of the University of Florida, which we're very close. The university is in our listening audience, just so you know. So we're very close to the University of Florida. And they had a story. Apparently, their scientists, I wanted to read it to you, but I just can't find it. But it was something to the effect that the sea level is rising 6 times faster off the coast of Florida and basically the whole southeast of the country, compared to the rest of the world. Why is that? Or do you even agree with that? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's something that's occurring with small islands as well, Larry, that the sea level rise is not occurring uniformly around the globe, and some areas are experiencing faster sea level rise than others, and primarily closer to the equator. We are also seeing higher sea level rise. So on average, the world is seeing sea level rise at around 3 millimeters per year, and that rate is increasing. But some areas are seeing 4 to 6 times higher at 12 to 15 millimeters per year, and that's affecting some small islands as well.
Okay, so the experts that we are not, and I mean the average person, including myself, we try to educate ourselves as best as possible. You can give us an A for credit, an A for effort, but at the same time, we don't know who to believe. Can you recommend? Do we look at the movie that Al Gore is responsible for? The 2 movies now. He's got a second one. I guess that's out. Does that give us reliable? Is that reliable information?
I think so. I trust the scientists, and the most reliable source that we have is what's called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC. And this is hundreds of scientists from all around the world that review thousands of scientific papers and then produce these summary reports on a periodical basis. And the last IPCC report came out in around 2013, 2014, and that was unequivocal That said, climate change is absolutely occurring. It's occurring now, and that climate change is caused by mankind, and that's the debate about that is over, at least in the scientific community.
Okay, if that's what's happening and we're causing it, then the next message from us, the question should be, well, what can we do to reverse it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now you're getting to the point where I get interested, because we as small islands, we're the canaries in the coal mine. We're the ones who are going to feel the climate change the most and are feeling it the most right now. So we're absolutely anxious that the world comes together and solves this problem, and that's what Paris was all about. Paris was the first step.
Okay, but I'm not the world. I'm just Larry. What can Larry do? What can I do to contribute to the world?
That's a good question too, Larry. And a lot of us feel a little bit frustrated that as individuals that we can't do anything, and that's not true. We can reduce our own carbon footprints by just adjusting our lifestyles a little bit. We can decide what mode of transport we're going to use, public bus or electric vehicle rather than a gas guzzling SUV. We can look at our own diet. We perhaps reduce a little bit the amount of meat that we consume, and particularly beef, because that causes a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, one of the most important things that we can do is that we can elect politicians that will put policies in place that will help us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
And that's absolutely imperative.
I greatly respect what you're saying, but the problem I think a lot of people have, and you can't blame them, is when somebody in a position of power is dictating to the rest of us that we need to cut what we're doing, and they're not cutting what they're doing. It doesn't look like it. And I mean, if you look at what they're doing, they're flying in airplanes. They're flying and they're just a small entourage, and they're in a big airplane.
Right, exactly.
In fact, I think Al Gore was guilty of that, and I'm not an Al Gore basher. I'm just saying, I think these are the things that we need to be looking at.
Well, to give Al Gore his credit, and to give perhaps people like myself a credit as well, because in your introduction you mentioned that I was in Morocco for one conference, and then I was in Paris for another. So yes, I personally have a relatively high carbon footprint when it comes to the amount of travel I have to do to these various conferences. What I try to do as a human being is I try to offset that by buying what are called carbon credits. You can go online and you can purchase these things called carbon credits, which then act as offsets against your own carbon footprint. So there are, and it's a bit complicated. I don't want to spend too much time on it now, but there are ways in which you can offset your own carbon footprint. And I'm not saying that you should stop traveling. The world has to continue working. So one of the myths that's out there, Larry, is that we have to change our lifestyles drastically to stop climate change. That's not true. Those who wish to maintain the status quo, in other words, those who wish to maintain oil and coal and gas, they're the ones who are perpetuating that myth.
Gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say now, Robin? Oh my gosh, I just dropped it.
What kind of when you were in these two negotiations, did you meet up with any resistance, or was everybody practically on the same page?
Oh no, not on the same page at all. And I've been in this process since the Bali COP back in 2008. 2007. And remember, back in Copenhagen, I was there in 2009 when we thought we were going to resolve the problem, when President Obama came in at the last moment, and we got what was called the Copenhagen Accord, which wasn't even, my personal opinion, wasn't worth the paper it was written on. So it's been a long trek to get the world to come to consensus. And one of the things we had to do to make sure that the world came to consensus was have a purely voluntary approach. So there's no stick here. It's all carrots. It's all countries saying what they can voluntarily do, which is why it's so surprising that the United States has said that it wishes to withdraw.
I know what I want to say. In Europe, there was a couple of stories, one out of France and I think one out of the European Union, that they were going to, first of all, outlaw all gas-powered cars by the year 20-something. I can't remember what year. But they were going to start to penalize people with a penalty fee if they were still driving as early as 2020, just 3 years from now. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great. That was great.
You like that idea? Okay, so America's not doing anything like that. What is the ratio of the amount of, you just use your terms, the carbon footprint that we will leave? If I'm powering my car with electricity, that electricity is made somewhere, and I don't know. Yeah. Doesn't the place the electricity comes from contribute to the carbon footprint as much as my car might have?
Excellent point. Well, there are two things. There are two issues that are nested in there, Larry. You're absolutely right in terms of absolute carbon emissions. Is it really worth me to switch to an electric vehicle if the electricity that I'm using is being generated by a coal-fired power plant?
Yeah.
And the answer is, we're going to have to crunch the numbers, because there's a certain amount of thermodynamic efficiency you're getting out of your internal combustion engine versus the efficiency of the electric vehicle. So it's not absolutely certain that you're going to burn the exact same amount of carbon. That's one point. The second, but your main point is there, and that is you're going to get all the benefits of electric vehicles only if your electricity itself is clean or green. So you've got to green your grid as well if you're gonna bring your transport sector onto the grid. The second issue, though, is beyond climate change. There's a public health issue involved in terms of all these vehicles on the road, and the air quality issues, which we've learned in densely populated cities like Los Angeles and in some of our Asian cities as well. The point I'm trying to make is that you're going to get a public health benefit from switching away from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, even beyond reducing carbon emissions.
Well, as far as I can remember, I've been a proponent of keeping the environment clean. Even when I was a kid, I was always the guy who said, how is it possible that people can't hit the garbage pail when they're throwing away their wrappers from their hamburgers, etc.?
Yeah.
And when I got older and I would fly into L.A. and fly into New York, I could see the what we call the smog in the air. And that was before anybody was talking about climate change. Dr. Hugh Seeley, I'm sorry, we have to close the interview, but give me a website so we can learn more.
Well, I would suggest you go to the IPCC website, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So just Google IPCC.
Okay, all right. Doctor, thank you for taking some time out of your day to share your expertise with us.
You're most welcome.
All right, we'll be right back.
The Agricultural Act of 2014 authorized the market assistant loan and loan deficiency payments for peanuts for the years 2014 through 2018. The new 2017 guidelines have now been issued by USDA. These guidelines will prepare a peanut buying point in automating and reporting what